Hi, my name is Kelly Wu, and I did my research project on the Santa Barbara oil spill. So I called it the oil spill that started it all. It occurred in the Santa Barbara Channel in Southern California in January and February of 1969. It lasted for 10 whole days. And at the time, it ranked the largest spill in US waters. Today, it's still considered the largest in California. So geologists and scientists knew that there was oil off the coast of California, and drilling in Santa Barbara had begun in the 1950s. Then in the 60s, geologists realized that there was an anticlinal trend that extended underneath the channel. They began doing tests and realized that there were petroleum reservoirs in relatively shallow water, just 60 meters deep. They began building platforms, and on June 7th, 1968, they had their first spill, which was 2,000 gallons of crude oil that leaked into the sea. They assured it wouldn't happen again. And shortly after, multiple oil companies began a partnership where they were able to acquire the rights to the oil field land in the sea, and they built their first Platform A on September 14th, 1968. Just 4 months later, the Santa Barbara blowout happens. It was on January 28th, 1969, and it occurred just 10 kilometers off the coast. 80,000 to 100,000 barrels of crude oil spilled into the channel and onto the beaches during those 10 days, which is approximately 4.2 million gallons. Just to put that into perspective, that amount of liquid could fill the Monterey Bay Aquarium 3.5 times. It could supply 19 people their total lifetime supply of flushes. It could fill 16.5 Olympic-sized pools, and if it were drinkable, could supply almost 80,000 people with their beverage of choice for a whole year. The upper left-hand figure shows the extent of the oil spill and really how widespread the effects really were. The other images just show cleanup crews, bubbles coming up right before the spill, and then the oil sitting on top of the ocean shortly after it occurred. It's still ranked the third largest oil spill in the US today, just after the Deepwater Horizon in the Gulf of Mexico and the Exxon Valdez oil spill in Alaska. The effect on marine life was substantial. 3,500 seabirds died, and countless sea lions, seals, and dolphins as well. Beaches were painted black. Barnacle populations saw mortality as high as 80 to 90%. And 4 months later, a team from Life went to do a story and counted 100 dead animals on the stretch of beach in San Miguel Island that was still black with oil that much later. So these images just show some of the local birds and marine life that was affected, and just how drastically they were affected. There were other environmental impacts. The explosion was so powerful that it cracked the seafloor in 5 places. Oil was spilling out at 1,000 gallons per hour before it could be slowed. And several fish species saw a steady and rapid decline, which the Marine Fisheries Review Board refused to link to the spill because of the El Nino conditions that year. Other economic effects were substantial. The company was forced to pay the city, state, and the county of Santa Barbara a total of $9.5 million. And then many more millions went to owners of hotels, beachfront homes, and other facilities that were damaged by the spill. Tourism and the local fisheries that had to shut down was also affected negatively. There's obviously a lot of public outrage. Why did it matter this time so much? A couple of reasons. The first was that this was the only and first oil spill at the time to be televised and brought into people's homes. So they saw it and had a visceral reaction. Additionally, there was a lot of cultural awareness going on at this time. Civil rights, women's rights, and the war were all controversial issues that people were ready to protest and were mobilizing quickly against. The oil company's response didn't help as well. The president of Union Oil said he was amazed at the publicity for just the loss of a few birds. This all led to the birth of the EPA, which Nixon implemented. He went against many of the people in his party who had opposed this environmental protection agency that he established. The reason he went against his party was because of the pressure he felt to act by the Santa Barbara Republicans, a lot of which who helped him get elected. There were a lot of other policy changes as well. California set a moratorium for the next 3 years that kept new offshore drilling in state waters away and even restricted it on existing leases. There was also a federal moratorium that went into effect that banned all new offshore drilling, and that was in place for decades. Other federal policies established that companies had to pay an unlimited amount towards oil spill cleanup costs and penalties of up to $35 million. Today, there are 23 offshore oil and gas leases in state waters. And during Trump's administration, there were threats to reopen the gas leases off the California coast. The good news is we've learned a lot on about how to respond to these oil spills because they seem inevitable and are still occurring. Animal care experts have learned how to save a lot more lives a lot quicker and more efficiently. And ultimately, the greatest environmental danger is probably from the burning of these fossil fuels. This is just an image showing the platform A as of 2006 that still exists off the coast of Santa Barbara. Thank you.